That's right. Put more emphasis on
Welcome everyone to the Buddhist Temple of Toledo. This is a little loud. Please have a seat and turn to page 2. Great Prajna Paramita Heart. Oh, wait, I'm wrong. Page 2. Gata of Atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me, sins of old on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought. Now I atone for it all evil karma ever committed by me, sins of old on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought. Now I atone for it all evil karma ever committed by me, sins of old on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought. Now I atone for it all. Nikaya 3 Refuges. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Sangam Saranam Gacchami. Sangam Saranam Gacchami. I take refuge in Buddha. I take refuge in Buddha. I take refuge in Dharma. I take refuge in Dharma. I take refuge in Sangha. I take refuge in Sangha. The 5 remembrances. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. This precious human life, rarely encountered, is easily lost. Now that I have life and opportunity, may I practice the Dharma wholeheartedly. Mahayana refuge. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. Invocation of the lineage. I give thanks for the guidance of my teachers, for the lineage of teachers before them. I give thanks and offerings for their devoted practice of generosity, moral discipline, patience, joyful effort, concentration, wisdom, skillful means, unshakable vow, spiritual powers, and awakened awareness for my benefit. May their years of life be lengthened, and may their vows be completely realized, and may I cultivate these perfections with their guidance. 7 practices of the Bodhisattvas. I bow down in body, speech, and mind. I offer the best I have to give, both real and imagined, to fill the space between us. I regret and purify all transgressions. I rejoice in all virtues. I request you to remain until total enlightenment. I request wise and compassionate guidance. I dedicate my merit for the sake of all beings, generating love and compassion. May all sentient beings be free from clinging and hatred. Being close to some and distant from others, how wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will free them from clinging and hatred. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them happiness and the causes of happiness. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will free them from suffering and the causes of suffering. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings have the joy that has never known suffering. May they be free from clinging, hatred, jealousy, miserliness, doubt, pride, wrong view, ignorance, and dualistic thoughts. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them to this state. Bless me to accomplish this. The reading for today is on page 21 of the spiral-bound notebook. It's the Universal Gateway of Kanzeon Bodhisattva. Universal Gateway of Kanzeon Bodhisattva. When living beings suffer hardships, burdened by immeasurable woes, the power of Kanzeon's wondrous wisdom can relieve the suffering of the world, fully endowed with miraculous powers, widely practicing wisdom and skillful means, in every land, in all directions. In no realm does Kanzeon not appear. In all the various dark births of hell beings, hungry ghosts, and animals, the sufferings of birth, old age, sickness, and death are all gradually erased by Kanzeon, whose true regard, serene regard, far-reaching wise regard, whose regard with compassion and loving kindness is ever longed for, ever revered. Unblemished, serene radiance, benevolent sun, dispelling all gloom, Kanzeon can subdue the wind and fire of woes, clearly illuminating all the world. The precepts of compassion roar like thunder. The kind heart is wondrous as great clouds, pouring Dharma rain of sweet dew, quenching all flames of troubling passion. In each thought, with never a doubt, Kanzeon, the pure sage, in pain, agony, or death's distress, can provide a sure support, fully endowed with all virtues, eyes of compassion beholding all beings, assembling a boundless ocean of happiness. Thus, with reverence, we bow in prostration. Please stand for the Great Heart Sutra. Great Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, practicing deep Prajna Paramita, clearly saw that all five skandhas are empty, transforming all suffering and distress. Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form, form is exactly emptiness, emptiness exactly form, sensation, perception, mental reaction, consciousness are also like this. Shariputra, all things are essentially empty, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, without loss, without gain. Therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no sensation, perception, mental reaction, consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no color, sound, smell, taste, touch, object of thought, no seeing, and so on, to no thinking, no ignorance, and also no ending of ignorance, and so on, to no old age and death, and also no ending of old age and death, no suffering, cause of suffering, cessation, path, no wisdom, and no attainment, since there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva lives by Prajna Paramita, with no hindrance in the mind, no hindrance, and therefore no fear, far beyond elusive thinking. Right here is nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future live by Prajna Paramita, attaining Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore know that Prajna Paramita is the great sacred mantra, the great vivid mantra, the unsurpassed mantra, the supreme mantra, which completely removes all suffering. This is truth, not mere formality. Therefore set forth the Prajna Paramita mantra. Set forth this mantra and proclaim Gate Gate Para Gate Parsam Gate Bodhisvaha. Gate Gate Para Gate Parsam Gate Bodhisvaha. Gate Gate Para Gate Parsam Gate Bodhisvaha. We'll now sing the harmony of relative and absolute. the harmony of relative and absolute, the mind of the great sage of India is intimately conveyed from west to east among human beings are wise ones and fools, but in the way there is no northern or southern ancestor. The subtle source is clear and bright. The tributary streams flow through the darkness. To be attached to things is illusion. To encounter the absolute is not yet enlightenment. Each and all the subjective and objective spheres are related and at the same time independent, related yet working differently, though each keeps its own place. Form makes the character and appearance different. Sounds distinguish comfort and discomfort. The dark makes all words one. The brightness distinguishes good and bad phrases. The four elements return to their nature as a child to its mother. Fire is hot, wind moves, water is wet, earth hard, eyes see, ears hear, nose smells, tongue tastes the salt and sour. Each is independent of the other. Cause and effect must return to the great reality. The words high and low are used relatively. Within light there is darkness, but do not try to understand that darkness. Within darkness there is light, but do not look for that light. Light and darkness are a pair, not one, not two, like the foot before and the foot behind. Walking, each thing has its own intrinsic value and is related to everything else in function and position. Ordinary life fits the absolute as a box and its lid. The absolute works together with the relative, like two arrows meeting in midair. Reading words, you should grasp the great reality. Do not judge by any standards. If you do not see the way, you do not see it, even as you walk on it. When you walk the way, it is not near, it is not far, but if you are confused, mountains and rivers block your way. I respectfully urge you who study the mystery, do not pass your days and nights in vain. Infinite realms of light and dark convey the Buddha mind. All that is and we ourselves come forth in perfect harmony. We offer this sincere and devoted practice for the many beings of the 6 worlds and dedicate it in grateful thanks to the strength and sound practice of the great Heartland Sangha and its teachers. May our virtuous actions be clear from all interferences, and may our vows be fully realized. We especially dedicate these merits to Lorelei, Debbie, Bernie, Bob Brown, Greg, Julie Long, So Kay, for their comfort and healing. Diane Patton and her family at the time of her loved one's death. Evelyn and her family at the time of her passing. Janet Mendez at the time of her death. Serena at the time of her fire loss. And all those whose names we hold in the silence of our hearts, as well as those whose names we now voice aloud. May we live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma, and may we realize the Buddha way together. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored ones, Bodhisattva, Mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, Mahaprajna Paramita. Please prepare for Zazen. Please stand for 10 minutes. The sound of the clappers, first and third rows turn to your right, and second and fourth rows turn to your left and follow the walking pattern. We will now recite the Sangha Covenant on page 8. We, the Daishin Kokuji Sangha, with respect for the worth and dignity of each person, with wonder at the wisdom and compassion we seek to cultivate by practice, and with deep gratitude for the teachers of this lineage and our connection to one another, covenant to support each other by upholding the precepts of doing no harm, practicing good, and actualizing good for others.
Please have a seat, everyone.
Gata on opening the sutra. The Dharma incomparably profound and infinitely subtle is rarely encountered even in millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, receive and maintain it. May we completely realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
Good morning, everybody. Please sit in a way that we can see each other. Feel free to move around and put yourself in any way that is helpful. I'd like to speak today about Zen and the creative process. Creativity is a subject that many people feel is relegated to the fine artists, to the poets, to the painters, to the sculptors, to the musicians. And of course, they get a pretty good share of the creative process. But it's not just there. If you look at the subject from an academic point of view, there are people walking around with PhDs in creativity. That's a thing. You get interesting and really useful distinctions, actually, between different kinds of creativity. In fact, one of the classes I run at the university kind of winds itself around mindfulness practice and the creative process and how this unfolds. And if you look at the academic literature, you find distinctions like, well, there is innovative and adaptive creativity, and they're not the same thing. There's a certain kind of creative moment that is truly an innovation. This is a new thing that's happened here. And those moments, though they matter, they are quite rare in the scale of creativity. They happen very, very seldom. They're significant. For example, I don't know, going from no cars to the first car. That's a big innovative step. There's like a big hurdle there. But interestingly, going from the Model T to a big pickup truck is just a series of adaptations, right? Going from the first, Wright brothers gliding thing that was in the air for a few seconds longer than we thought possible, from nothing is a bigger step than actually going from that Wright brothers, Ohio boys as it is, their hang gliding thing to the space shuttle. Is a series of adaptations, right? It took humanity how long to get the first airplane? And then within the space of one person's long lifetime, all the way to space travel, right? So innovative versus adaptive, not a particularly Zen distinction, but interesting. I think it's very interesting. I would say that within the traditions of religion, there are some innovations that occur. Mostly not. Mostly adaptations, mostly minor tweaks and shufflings of the same deck of cards, just putting a different one on top for a while, but basically the same stuff, right? When it comes to what the Buddha taught, I would hold we have a really completely innovative, very different thing. If you consider most religious practices, they have all the answers. What you sign on to is to a belief system that answers everything, let's say, or at least purports to. Interestingly, in Zen, that's not a value. The Buddha did not give all the answers to all things, rather tools for us to discover our own true nature and live out of that true nature. With a great deal of space for the creative unfolding. We read today that Kanzeon, widely practicing wisdom and skillful means in every land in all directions. This skillful means that we hear about with the Bodhisattva is creativity. Upaya, it means being skillful and meeting the moment. People tend to think of that in terms of craft, craft being like done correctly. Certainly there's an element of it, but really it's art. Each of us to live out our lives, it's not a matter of craft, right? You don't become a craftsman of being you, hopefully. Hopefully you are an artiste of you, right? This is your life is your canvas, is the brush, is your art. And wielding that in a way that creatively helps to alleviate suffering in the world is the work of the Bodhisattva. This is what Zen holds to be the most important thing. This comes to my mind because this week we lost a musician who was very important to me. His name was Wayne Shorter. And Wayne Shorter, if you don't know his music, I would really like to encourage you to check it out. He was a very important, I would say, innovative jazz musician, a saxophonist. He died at some 90 years old, played with Miles Davis significantly. But he really, firstly, was one of the first people I heard of that was a Buddhist. Interestingly, when I went to music school, some of you may know that's my fate. I'm a music person. So I went to Boston to study jazz, being as foolish as I am, and encountered Wayne Shorter's music and the fact that it was even back then, which was before the internet, people were saying, oh, and he's a Buddhist, and he meditates. Like, ooh. That sounded compelling, I don't know. A little scary to a good little Toledo boy from back in the day. But, he was one of the figures that kind of, for me, I saw that there was this kind of profound musical soul and grit and gumption and reality in his music, and a subtlety that is hard to describe in with any kind of use, but also a freedom, a kind of a freedom in his music. And then to hear that this person was a Buddhist and was very actively engaged in their Buddhist practice, and that became wow, I wonder, how about that? I was encountering this Buddhism thing, this Zen business from other angles at the time, but he was one of the major influences in my wanting to check it out, I would say. And interestingly, also, the first non-academic series of gigs that I played was when in a group, there was a clarinetist of some power, and he wanted to play the music of Wayne Shorter. And so for some reason, he liked my sound and asked me to play. And that was my first, I think we were a quintet or something. We played all around the East Coast, but we just played the music of Wayne Shorter. And it was quite a challenging thing, still is, honestly. But he said famously that the word jazz means to me, to Wayne, I dare you. I dare you. Let's jump into the unknown. I dare you. Let's jump into the unknown. For Mr. Shorter, that's what jazz means. And that's the Zen bit. Let's jump into the unknown, shall we? Rather than a tradition that tells you, here's the answer to all things, there are no questions that aren't answered in our sacred text, simply refer. Rather, you have, what are you going to do? How are you going to be? What is your expression of Buddha? Let's see. I dare you. Right? Let's jump in. And this is the quality that I saw in my teachers. I always have. They have this kind of go cat, go, do it. Don't be afraid of yourself. Don't be afraid of your life. I know it's terrifying, no kidding. But still, don't. I dare you. Jump. You can do it. Trust yourself. Right? And there is something, in my experience anyway, there's something very much there when the jazz musician gets up to play. They do not know what's going to happen, and that's an essential ingredient, right? It's okay if you don't like jazz, by the way. but this leaning into the unknown in the moment and actually manifesting it, this is, like I said earlier, is not really limited just to the likes of Wayne Shorter. This is our life. This is our practice. And I feel very fortunate that my first Zen teacher, Daido Roshi, he recognized the right hooks to set out for me. He was very skillful with his means. His teacher, Maizumi Roshi, had passed away, and he was setting about the business of making a video documentary for which he wanted a soundtrack. And understanding what I was very involved in at the time, he asked me to be a part of that. And he set me in this band with everyone in the group was a way more senior Zen practitioner than me. They were Shuso, they were Shoken students, they were people of some depth. I was the rookie, but I got to go to the studio and record. And it was interesting, there was a session, and I went a weekend earlier, because the session would start on Monday. So I showed up on a Friday. We had the studio booked all day Saturday in upstate, recorded, and I was filled with that experience, right? And then right into session and trying to let go of the enthusiasm and the energy of the recording and the fear of it and the elation of it and all that and just sit. And in my mind, I thought, oh, this is what I need to do. I need to be able to just drop that, And then interesting for SAMU, for work practice, guess what my work assignment was? Was to listen to the recordings and pick the tracks. But in Doksan, Roshi was like, drop it, let go of the session. Just sit when you're sitting, play when you're playing. Just when you play, not you play, just play. When you sit, not you sit, just sit. And rings the bell. And then for work practice, go listen to the tracks. That's kind of tough. But I remember, I remember very distinctly. I met Roshi's eyes. I was there listening to the tracks, and it was really headsets. But I was really like grooving, and some of the other people doing work practice were a bit outraged or beside themselves. Who is this, rookie sitting there like grooving out to the tunes, I was quite fond of the experience, and I was getting the glances from them, and it's fine. As Roshi said, But then Roshi came over, and he was an imposing figure. He stood nearly 7 feet tall. I do not. And he came in and he wanted to see what the progress was like, And so he walked up to me. It was kind of a funky little building we were in, but he walked right up, and then I stood up, and I'm looking at him, and he just kind of looked down at me, and he said, "What do you hear?" And which was a question. It was a good question, and I responded. I forget exactly what I said, really, but I responded in some kind of a way that he just looked at me and went, "Hmm." And then he turned away and walked away. And I was like, I guess that was good, And then later in his talk, interestingly, I know this because he was making a point to say that at sesshin, at retreat, you can get into such a concentrated state without your actually knowing that it's happening. And he looked right at me with the lasers. I was like, whoa. So I don't know, I hallucinate it was from that exchange. But this business that he said, don't you play, just play. When you sit, just sit. This is a very important thing. If you listen carefully, in the first one, there's when you sit. And the next one is just sit. In other words, drop the you, right? When you do the dishes, just do the dishes. And it's taken some time for this teaching to really permeate, but these pointers are there for a very real reason. They help us. It's kind of like, I dare you. I dare you. Just listen. Can you? Can you just listen? Rather, just listen. And it turns out that this just thing is one of the keys to creativity as a spiritual practice. Because you see, it's quite possible to be creative in a way that you're asserting yourself the whole time. And this leads to a lot of suffering in its wake. This is the ego reifying itself and displaying itself and contesting with others in a game that is impossible to win. There simply is no winning. It's stacked. The house is going to win, and the house is suffering. There's no way you play that game and win. You might have a few more chips than the other person, but don't kid yourself. There's something very different about Zen's creative process, about Zen art. Master Dogen famously said, to study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be enlightened by the 10,000 things. To study the way, to study Zen, to study enlightenment, is to study yourself. You, dear one, are the teachings. You are the sutras. You are reality itself. It's not in the cool reading book or in the liturgies, as fond as I am of them. You're it. You don't need some priest or a bearded scholar to tell you anything, other than maybe a few pointers here and there to help you uncover yourself, at best. But you have to understand that most all of us have been really abused with this teaching that don't trust yourself, trust the authority, trust the revelation and those who understand it correctly, and above all, question yourself and trust the man or the whatever. And so it's very difficult, very, very difficult for us to actually let go of that conditioning and really believe that if you take the dare, if you actually leap into your own life, that you will be free. I'm not saying everything comes up glitter and rainbows all the time, but you will be free. You will actually be living your authentic truth. This is far better than a well-gilded facade. It's better to breathe the true air than an air which has been conditioned beyond any nourishment for you. It's one of the things that happens as people start to practice and they start to settle down and actually come to themselves. Life changes tend to show up because we end up noticing things that we've been maybe not willing to or able to notice about our own choices, about our own creative way or lack thereof of being in our lives. And I'm not saying everyone has to take up the horn. I mean, you know, it's not about that. It's your life is the thing. And so it happens a lot. People start to settle down, they get some equanimity, the body stills, the mind stills, and then when you come out from that back into your daily life, suddenly you can see it perhaps in a different way than when you're just constantly on that goddamn hamster wheel running and running and running and running, and even your rest is a different kind of race. Another kind of spinning wheel that you're stuck in. You just change scenery and start running on another wheel. Please give yourself the gift of settling down for a bit and trust what you see. Trust what you notice. Listen to what your body is telling you. Listen to what your heart is saying in your gut. Don't leave your gut out of it. And then forget yourself. To study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self, is to drop the self. And this, this can be a very concerning assertion, Isn't everything in religion about, my self's eternal, awesomeness or something, me, it's about me being saved or me being right or me being righteous or whatever, me being accepted. We can do way better than that. Those things pale in comparison, even if they were true. I'm not sure. But they pale in comparison to actually forget yourself. Because what happens when you forget yourself, when you really don't cling to this disease of limited view? Of course you're a self. We all know that. You don't need to train in that. You got that one. It's the other half that's a little bit lacking. Be able to drop that clinging to this experience and notion of self. And it's amazing. You know what's left? Everything in the cosmos. It's amazing. It's like, it's the opposite of what it might sound like. Oh God, you drop yourself. Well, that's no fun. Actually, it's a lot more fun. It really is. Let's go back to Wayne. You know, there was a moment when Mr. Shorter was a younger version of himself trying to figure out the horn, and I guarantee you he walked up on the stage and was horrible. Guaranteed. I mean, I didn't hear it, but I know the process. I'm sure he walked up there and tried to play well. Rookie move, okay? Because that makes all this effort, and it's another hamster wheel, and he's got to do it right. And at the best at that level you have is craft executed, you know, passively. That's as good as that can go. The elevator doesn't go any higher than that from that perspective. Something else happened where Wayne played and he disappeared into the sound. It's not Wayne playing the horn. Come on. It's just ba-do-da-do, ba-do-da-do, da-do-da. That's it. Boo-do-do-do, ba-ba-ba-dum. Ba-da-da-da-da-bum-ba-dum. Be-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. It just became the music, right? I think that's off Speak No Evil. You should check out that record. But he became the music. Does that make sense? So this is a real thing. It doesn't help you at all to believe that Wayne did that. I mean, that's nice, but maybe it gives you courage to feel like you too could. Then it's useful to believe it. But the belief is very little use. Actually, you must do, right? And you don't have to play the horn or even play that tune. I mean, it's a matter of forget yourself. And then what happens is to forget the self is to be enlightened by the 10,000 things. It can be melody, harmony, and rhythm with some swing. Doesn't have to be. It can be how to deal with that resistant child or this career that has really dried up on you, even though it's doing great. Or dealing with that relationship that you know needs dealing with. Or starting a business. I dare you. Jump into your life and let go and trust. But it's not the blind, you know, like the tarot card, the fool. You know that one? He's just kind of, you know, and the pooch is saying, dude. He's like, you know, he just jumps off the cliff. You know, it's not like that. It's not really like that. Maybe a little bit. But it's this fierce warrior mind in a way. Being able to really, really leap into your life as it actually is, so much that you drop yourself and merge so thoroughly with what is so that there's no distinction between you and it. None at all. There's a famous exchange I'd like to recount for you. Tzu asked Fa Yen, "Where have you come from?" Response, "I pilgrimage aimlessly." "What is the matter of your pilgrimage?" "I don't know." Not knowing is most intimate. Let me play the tune again for you. Listen. Sweet Song asked Fa Yen, "Where have you come from?" "I pilgrimage aimlessly." "What is the matter of this pilgrimage? What is this pilgrimage about? What's the truth of your pilgrimage?" "I don't know." Not knowing is most intimate. See, this intimate business, by definition, means no separation, yeah, in our language. Seeing forms with the whole body and mind, hearing sounds with the whole body and mind, one understands them intimately. This is the teaching of Master Dogen. Not just him. All the great ones played in the same key. But that's the way he said it. Seeing form with the whole body and mind. Hearing sounds with the whole body and mind. Some of us have had a little trouble with sound now and then, right? What does it mean to see with the whole body and mind and to hear with the whole body and mind, right? In this way, one understands them intimately. You merge with what is so. Oh, I hear the kids. I hear those birds. Rookie. You can do better. But knowing about it won't help you. You have to, I dare you, you have to leap. You have to actually be willing to drop the hamster wheel of self, of your identity. How beautiful and precious it may be, I bow to it, but please be able to drop it, or you will never be free. Fear not, it will be there for you again. No problem. And in fact, if it's healthy for you, it'll be even stronger if you can drop it. When you sit in meditation, you should be no one in particular. Believe me, when I sit up here in Zazen, if I'm doing what I should be doing, I'm not Rinzen Roshi sitting Zazen at the Buddhist temple of Toledo with a stick. That is not what's happening. If that's what's happening, I don't deserve to be holding this thing. I really wouldn't. Become no one in particular. Even though the attainment of realization is immediately manifest, and it is, it's in the horn of Wayne's music, even when he was completely messing it up, frankly, that's it too. It's in the sound of the kids. It's in the feel of spring in the air. Can you taste it almost, right? It's in the crack of dawn that's a little earlier and lasts a little longer now. But even though it's immediately manifest, its intimate nature is not necessarily realized. Realizing it isn't inherently guaranteed. Some may realize it, some may not. And that should be motivating. That's the I dare you part. Realize it. Realize it for yourself. The fact is, each of us has such an extraordinarily rare thing in the cosmos. Here we sit as human beings, functional enough to actually make it into the space and to hear a talk and to have some food and to hang out with each other. Do you understand how miraculously rare this is? In so far, everything we've seen with the Webb telescope, we don't see anybody waving back yet. I hope we do. Statistically, we ought to. But nonetheless, here you are. Of all the uncountable trillions of people that could have been born, you won. Here you are. Congratulations. But what a pity to live and die this immediately manifest reality and not realize it? How perverted. How obtuse. How can you understand? To actually be a human being and to live and die on the hamster wheel and think that's it? Please. I mean, it's one thing if you decide you're going to go romp around in there because it's good for you or good for others or serves a function. Hey, I get it. You know, I have a job too. But knowingly, I choose. How about you? Widely practicing wisdom fully endowed with miraculous powers and skillful means in every land, in all directions. In no realm does Kanzeon not appear. The Bodhisattva, she can show up in any realm with no worries and no problems. She cries to hear the sufferings and she manifests. And I'm not talking about this chunk of wood up here. I'm talking about you. May it be so.
Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. The delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And as soon as the gong sounds, we will have delicious food and fellowship together. Are there any announcements?
We'll even be able to hear them.
Good.
Maybe.
Hi everyone, I'm Soko. Today is the very last day to sign up for Jukai and start the application process. If anybody didn't get a chance to do that, I'll be here after service if you just want to touch base with me and we'll get you in, okay?
Hi, my name is Kensei. I have two announcements. The first one is Abbasi Moving Day. It's going to be so much fun. There are many ways to sign up. You have an email, there's a Facebook post, and there's a flyer with a QR code. A QR code. When you scan it with your phone, it takes you to the sign-up sheet. Thank you, Zuise. We would love to have you. We need all the bodhisattvas, moving things, cleaning things, gardening, something for everyone. The second thing is Ango is coming up, and Sangha circles are forming. Look for an email tonight or tomorrow to sign up for a Sangha circle. And please do. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bujo. Wow, QR codes. That's amazing. It's amazing. I don't have a QR code, but I wanted to let everyone know tomorrow is the monthly Service of Universal Worship that the Multi-Faith Council puts on, and we always do something, and it's on Zoom. But this time, there's a song from the Plum Village songbook called Breathe You Are Alive that we have, and a couple of us are going to sing it, but there are so many people here, I don't want to exclude anyone. I have printed out a little arrangement I did. It's 2 parts. If you're curious, if you'd like to try it out, we're going to do it right here, right now. So just let me know. Thank you.
Final announcement, as Kinko said, when the gong sounds, we have a beautiful potluck lunch, and we're going to take our practice, and we're going to eat, and we're going to just eat and just socialize and enjoy each other's company. And then, when we're done eating, we're going to just take our dishes, each of us, to the kitchen and just wash them. And all of it's going to be beautiful community Dharma practice. Everyone, guests, new people, old hands, everyone's welcome to participate. Let's take it up together.
Something did just occur to me. There might be people so new they don't know what Sangha circles are.
And they're going to learn about it in the evening.
Cool.
Please restore the Zendo.
Thank you.